Movie did, old man. Fire lanes, not a parking lot. That's what the tow truck driver barked as he snapped a photo of the rusted military pickup. The veteran didn't argue. He just stood there, calm, still, and silent. He knew what that plate meant. They didn't. The hook rattled into place. Chains were pulled, and then a voice rang out. "Hold it. That plate number is classified." Everyone froze. The man who spoke, a uniformed officer, stepping out of a black SUV with tinted windows, his face set like granite. "If you believe some service records go deeper than paperwork, comment respect below." Samuel Rourke, 77, had driven that old army truck since the day he left the base for the last time. It wasn't pretty. Olive green paint had faded to a patchy moss dents, marked every chapter of service in the weathered bumper sticker. Simply read, "I carried what others couldn't." That day Samuel wasn't shopping or wasting space like some entitled civilian. He was delivering supplies, handmade comfort packs for wounded veterans recovering at the rehab center adjacent to the fire station, each package lovingly assembled by his arthritic hands through sleepless nights. There had been no open spot that morning. The fire lane was completely clear, no emergency vehicles in sight. He'd only be 5 minutes, maybe less. But 5 minutes was too long for one young city tow contractor with a quota to fill and a lunch break approaching. "You're blocking a fire lane, old man," he said, not bothering to hide his impatience. Samuel explained politely, offered to move it immediately, his voice soft but clear, the same tone that had once commanded respect in war rooms. But the tow guy had already taken a photo, thumbs tapping his tablet screen. "Sorry, policy. Once I've logged it, it's in the system. You don't understand." Samuel tried again, pointing at his license plate, a faded black on white military plate with no state logo, just a series of numbers that looked meaningless to civilians. "This truck is exempt," he said. "It's listed in Federal Registry under special provision." The man scoffed, glancing at the plate and rolling his eyes. "That plate ain't even legit, probably some replica you bought online. I'm reporting it for fraud too." Samuel didn't protest, just stepped back with quiet dignity as the chains clinked and tightened around the axle, metal on metal grinding like distant artillery. The tow operator worked with mechanical efficiency, ignoring Samuel's weathered face with his roadmap of sacrifice etched into every line. For a moment, their eyes met across the divide. Youth versus experience, arrogance versus patience, ignorance versus knowledge too heavy to share. Samuel's hands, calloused from decades of service, remained steady at his sides. No anger, no pleading, just the stoic stance of a man who'd faced worse than this in jungles and deserts, where death whispered through the foliage. A small crowd had gathered, their phones recording what they assumed was just another senior citizen in trouble. Some whispered, others shook their heads in misplaced pity. One woman in blue scrubs from the rehab center approached, recognition in her eyes. "Sir, are those the comfort packages? The veterans are waiting for their weekly visit." Samuel nodded his eyes, never leaving his truck. "Tell them I'll be there. Might be delayed. Tell Johnson I'll still play that chess game I promised." The tow operator smirked. "Yeah, delayed by about $300 in a trip downtown to verify your paperwork." Samuel's silence wasn't weakness. It was the quiet confidence of someone who'd learned when to fight and when to wait, the kind of wisdom only earned through battles most couldn't imagine, and wounds some could never see. His military ID remained in his pocket. He could have shown it, could have demanded respect, but that wasn't his way, never had been, not in 50 years of service. Instead, he stood straight, parade rest watching as his mission of mercy was interrupted by bureaucracy and disrespect. The box of handmade cards from local school children sat visible in the passenger seat. "Get well soon. Thank you for your service. You are our hero." Irony wasn't lost on Samuel. Passers-by filmed. Some laughed. A child pointed. An elderly woman shook her head in sympathy but kept walking. One younger woman in designer sunglasses muttered loudly to her companion, "Probably stolen valor. My brother's in the army, and he says, these old guys buy fake plates and stickers online all the time." A teenager skateboarding past shouted, "Nice ride, Grandpa." 1950s called. "They want their rust bucket back." His friends high-fived him, their laughter echoing against brick walls. The tow driver climbed into his truck engine, revving impatiently. The winch began to tighten, pulling Samuel's vehicle forward with a mournful groan of metal. The comfort packages slid forward on the passenger seat, threatening to topple. But then a black government SUV pulled in, fast tires squealing against asphalt as it executed a perfect blocking position. Government plates, not state, not local. Out stepped a man in Class A dress uniform, his posture impossibly straight. Silver eagles gleamed from his shoulders in the morning light, his eyes sharp, assessing scanned the scene with military precision. He walked straight to the tow truck, each step deliberate and measured, and said only 5 words. "That plate number is classified." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. "Excuse me," the tow man stuttered, hand frozen on the controls, disbelief warring with confusion. "Unhook that vehicle now." The words weren't loud, but they carried the undeniable weight of authority. The officer showed credentials with a practiced flick of his wrist. Not local PD, not even FBI, U.S. Army Counterintelligence Division. "This man's service is not up for debate," he continued, eyes never leaving the tow operator's increasingly pale face. "That plate ties to Operation Valley Wind, clearance level 8, verification required for even acknowledging its existence." The crowd blinked collectively. Whispers started. The tow driver's face drained of color so rapidly he seemed to age a decade in seconds. Samuel hadn't moved, not a single muscle, still at parade rest, eyes forward, chin slightly elevated. The officer turned toward him with practiced military precision. "Sergeant Major Rourke, sir." He paused, something like reverence entering his voice. "Permission to stand beside you." "Permission granted," Samuel replied, the words barely audible, yet somehow filling the suddenly respectful silence. The SUV's doors opened again. 4 more officers stepped out in perfect synchronization, forming a loose protective formation. One carried a weatherproof duffel bag, placing it carefully in Samuel's truck bed. "We've been looking for you, sir," the new officer said. "Command wants you at base by sundown. Urgent matter requires your specific expertise." Samuel nodded, once a barely perceptible movement. "Still delivering, son. Always mission first." The tow operator's radio crackled to life, shattering the moment. His supervisor was demanding updates, voice tinny through the speaker. The operator's hand trembled visibly. "If you believe legends live quietly among us, subscribe to this channel and help honor their stories." The tow driver unhooked everything with trembling hands. "I'm sorry, sir." "Don't apologize to me," Samuel replied. "Apologize to the next old man before assuming he's no one." The officer stepped forward. Sergeant Major Parks led a rescue under blackout conditions in 1975, saved 26 men. The mission was never declassified. He's the last surviving member of Task Force Midnight. A small crowd had formed. Phones were off now. People simply watched. A firefighter approached Mr. Rourke. "I'm so sorry, we didn't know." "Now you do," Samuel nodded. That afternoon, the local news aired the footage. It went viral. Within 24 hours, Samuel's quiet act of service and calm in the face of disrespect had turned into a lesson broadcast across the nation. Veterans began sharing stories, and how he parked with honor began trending. The mayor issued a statement. "We failed to recognize someone who never stopped serving." And the tow company lost its contract the next day. But Samuel didn't care for punishment. He cared for memory. "Let them learn," he said. "That's enough." By evening, the video had been viewed 17 million times. News vans lined the street outside Samuel's modest ranch home. He declined all interviews. Instead, he sat on his porch swing, sipping coffee from a metal canteen cup, the same one he'd carried through jungles half a century before. His phone rang constantly. Old comrades, military historians, documentary producers. He answered only one call from the rehab center. "The veterans received your packages, sir," the nurse told him. "They're asking if you might visit tomorrow." "Oh, 800 hours," Samuel confirmed. "I'll be there." That night, a street lamps cast long shadows across his lawn. A line of cars drove slowly past his house. Not media, not curiosity seekers. Veterans. Silent headlights dimmed, some in uniform, others with service caps, all offering a slow, deliberate salute as they passed. Samuel stood on his porch, returning each one. No words needed. The next morning, when Samuel arrived at the rehab center, he found the fire lane transformed. A row of American flags lined the curb. A hand-painted sign read, "Reserved for Sergeant Major Parks." Inside, wounded warriors from Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond waited to meet the man whose mission had remained classified for so long. One young Marine, his legs recently amputated, wheeled forward. "Sir," he said, voice cracking, "my grandfather was one of the 26 you carried him through 3 miles of enemy territory after he was shot." Samuel's stoic expression wavered. He placed a weathered hand on the young Marine's shoulder. "Your grandfather carried me too, son, just in a different way." The rehab center director approached with an official-looking document. "The city council met in emergency session last night. This parking spot is now permanently designated in your honor. Samuel shook his head. No special treatment. Give it to the ambulances. They need it more. Then we'll name the whole street after you, someone called from the back. For the first time in decades, Sergeant Major Samuel Parks allowed himself a full smile. Name it after the 25 who didn't come home. I just carried their memory. The tow company owner arrived personally, hat literally in hand. Sir, on behalf of my company, I can't apologize enough. Again, Samuel studied the man carefully, then extended his hand. Train your people better. That's all I ask. Redemption wasn't just for Samuel. It was for a society that had forgotten how to recognize quiet heroism. By week's end, VA hospitals nationwide had implemented new parking protocols. Military license plates received additional verification processes. Training programs for city workers included sessions on veteran recognition, all because one man stood silent in the face of disrespect. A week later, a bronze plaque was installed at the same curb. It read, "This space was once called illegal until honor reclaimed it." Every Sunday, a small crowd gathered by the curb, not to protest, but to place flags and thank you notes. Samuel came less frequently, but one Sunday he parked there again, this time with permission. An officer stood by saluting. When asked why he never told people who he was, Samuel replied, "I wasn't hiding, I just didn't think I needed to explain." A boy nearby said, "I want to be like you." Samuel chuckled. "Then listen more than you speak and salute those who earned it before you." He passed away 1 year later peacefully in his sleep. The fire lane was renamed Parks Way, and every Memorial Day, no vehicles parked there, just flags and silence. The legacy Samuel left wasn't just about a parking space or a classified mission. It was about something America had nearly forgotten: the power of dignified silence in a world of constant noise. The colonel who had intervened that day spoke at Samuel's funeral. The church overflowed with uniforms, spanning generations of service. Samuel Parks carried more than wounded men to safety. He said he carried their stories, their sacrifices, their silences, and he never put that burden down. The tow truck driver attended to standing quietly in the back. He quit his job the day after the incident, enlisted in the Army. The following week, school curricula began to include Samuel's story, not the classified details but the lesson. Sometimes respect means recognizing what you cannot see. Sometimes heroism wears no medal. At Arlington, where Samuel was laid to rest with full military honors, his headstone bears only his name, rank and dates of service. No mention of Task Force Midnight, no list of commendation. But twice a year, on the anniversary of that fateful day, and on Veterans Day, something unusual happens. A black SUV arrives, a classified file is opened briefly beside his grave, then burned, and another secret mission acknowledged, another debt repaid. And at the rehab center where it all began, the delivery of comfort packages continues. Anonymous donors ensure no wounded warrior goes without recognition. The fire lane remains clear, except for a single space now marked with a simple chain. Its message is clear to all who understand. Some boundaries exist to be crossed when carrying what others cannot. Samuel Parks knew that all along. He just never needed to explain. Subscribe to Steel Heart Stories if you believe honor lives in action, not in headlines.